Try to name one amazing modern rock production that has crappy drum sound. You won't find any because 70% of the mix is determined by how good the drums will sound. It can be quite challenging to achieve a powerful drum sound in the mix, especially in heavily produced music such as rock, metal or EDM, because there's so much density and instruments are basically fighting each other for the mid-range, for the low end. So there's a lot going on, and that's also why producers use drum layering, using samples to enhance and get a bigger than life type of sound. Because if you're working with poorly recorded acoustic drums or using B-grade samples from random libraries, no matter how you compress, EQ or try to alter the sound, you're gonna be struggling to try to achieve a killer sounding mix that stands out. The key here, as always in mixing, is to start with good sources. So you want to make sure to have solid drum tones before you start mixing. That's where Heavyocity comes in to bring to producer killer sounding tones. Analog Hybrid Drums packs 25,000 samples and a ton of presets for Contact to get you started right away in the creative process or to enhance a current drum mix. So today I'll walk you through the coolest features of this new amazing expansion from Damage 2 so that you can make the most out of Analog Hybrid Drums in no time. There are three different ways to load Analog Hybrid Drums in Contact. The first one, which is the most plug-and-play version, is the Loop Designer. As any other product based on Heavyocity's Damage 2 engine, you can always move the cursors here and chop up the loop to make it fit your music better. So for example, here is the start cursor. This is the loop start cursor after it loops one time, and the end cursor. So you can change the position here. So this is very, very important to try to tailor the loops to your music. For the main controls, here you have volume, pan, tune. So you can always pitch shift up, pitch shift down, and you can always change the speed. So for example, if that loop felt a little bit fast for the tempo, you can always do half speed or double speed. And this can be a very cool to tweak. Up here we have the snapshot. So here it's sorted in straight. So for example, quarter note, 8th note, 16th notes feel. So you have here all-star combos, which are blending synth and hybrids in the same type of snapshot. And here you have more synth loops and then hybrid loops. So let's listen to a few synth loops first. And let's listen to a few hybrid loops to show you a difference. And if we check out the all-star combos, it's going to be mixing synth and hybrid. So you can see how cool these loops are, and I already have ideas to stack on top of actual beats. For example, for a section, if you want to have a bit more spice at the beginning of a certain part or in the middle, for example, of a verse where you need to lift things up, you can just add a few things in there, for example, a single loop, and you're gonna have a bit more power, a bit more energy, and you can tuck it in the background, put a filter, for example, cut a bit of low end, cut a bit of top end, and then you're gonna get a nice little push. So the main difference between the Loop Designer and the other two, which is the Kit and the Ensemble Designer, is the fact that the Loop Designer comes packed with already pre-programmed ideas that you can use. The other two, you're gonna have to work a little bit, create, choose sounds, and then you can get started according to the sounds you picked. So the Loop Designer is a really good way to kickstart a production or to really give you ideas on the fly and not waste time. The main difference between the three different versions of Analog Hybrid Drums is the first option that you're gonna see here. So you're gonna have Stage for Ensemble Designer, you're gonna have Mix for Kit Designer, and Loop in the Loop Designer. So for Stage, this is really to play with a sense of space and depth when you construct your kit. So for example, you can activate Stage here, and here you can control the depth of your instruments and the positioning in space, which can be very interesting. So for Analog Hybrid Drums, with the Kit Designer, you're gonna have effects right away that you can tweak and activate according to your sound sources, which are independent for each channel. The second tab down here called Source is essentially the same for each version. Here you can really pick your samples out of all the samples. So for example, all the kicks, snare, hats, toms and percussions, impacts, and also reverse sounds. For example, in the Kit Designer here, it's more made to be dragged and dropped, for example, in here, so you can customize and create your kit for pads in your keyboard. And then on the right side here, you have the Loop Designer, which is really essentially all the pre-programmed loops ready to use that you can drag and map on your keyboard. And as I said earlier here, when you hit the designer keys, you're gonna be playing both low, mid, and high loops. And if you want to use only parts of that loop, then you can only select, for example, C4 will select the high, C3 will select the mids, and C2 will select the low. What's really useful is also this randomize function here, which you can click. So now C1 won't only select C2, C3, and C4, but will also mix it up, as you can see here. So let's hit C1. If I randomize again, so it's really instant creativity, and it gives you different combinations now. So pressing C5 and above on your keyboard, you have access to all these impacts, these reverse sounds and transition type of sounds. And you also have the stutter option, which can create really cool type of things in your loops. Then here in SoundFX, you have this effects modulation wheel, which will dynamically change as you can see the cursor here moving, and you can open and tweak that. So let's see how it sounds like. The last tab here is the MasterFX, which features the punish, distortion, and compression setting, which is absolutely amazing. So the first one is called Gently Now, Hurt Me Plenty to Nightmare, and the higher you go, obviously the more compression and distortion. So let's hear how it sounds like. All the effects modules that are down here can be changed in position to create the perfect effects chain, and that also helps you save some DSP in your DAW, since you don't have to load extra plugins after loading Analog Hybrid Drums. With the Ensemble Designer NKI, it's really easy to get going with a killer drum sound in no time. So we have a bunch of presets here. Let's try the Cinematic Hybrid Trailer Kit first. And as you change here the little bars, you're gonna see the difference in depth, and you can move, for example, your source left to right, more reverb. And here you have a blend of 5 different mics, for example, LFE, hall, room, overhead, and closed mic. If you want only the closed mic type of sound. And if you want something a bit looser. So let's check out a few cool ideas that I worked on with Analog Hybrid Drums in about 10 minutes. So here we have only some kind of intro type of sounds. Then we have this main kit going on with a transition. Then second part, I'm gonna start adding another loop on top, which is right here. Then here we have a quick groove with acoustic drums and bass, and I added on top of that some analog hybrid samples. And then a quick groove on top, lo-fi. So the samples here in that specific grooves are not used as main sound, they're used to be adding some kind of flavor to the main loop. So let's listen to them in solo to see the mix between acoustic drums and the analog hybrid drums layer on top. And then for quick transitions in your songs, sometimes we run out of ideas. So just by dragging and dropping the main drum groove, I selected here combo, filtered and crush in my kit designer. And I came up with an idea right away, a type of sound to make a transition between that beat and the next section. And here in the last section here, again, we're using analog drums as another layer on top of the acoustic drums. So let's listen to the solo analog drums here. And finally, here on the right, I have something a bit more relaxed, a bit more zen, more atmospheric. We're using only Gravity 2, a send, and a few instances of analog hybrid drums. So I've really only scratched the surface in all the amazing sounds and features that we can get out of this expansion from Damage 2. I highly recommend that you download the trial and check it out for yourself. If the content was helpful, smash that like button, drop a comment below, share with your friends, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.